For disabled people are or non-existent. These are services in areas like education, healthcare, social care and transport that are not optional extras. They're services that disabled people are entitled to as a right. Services that, if eventually are provided, are only ever after a fight. Funding shortfalls, staffing shortfalls and lack of resources are the only guarantees. As highlighted last night, Primetime covered a crisis in special school in Clondalkin, Scull-McCua. Its patron, the Central Remedial Centre, had been making up a funding shortfall between what the school actually costs to run and what the school receives from the Department of Education. That gap is an enormous 120,000. Parents in the school are now being told they need to fundraise and raise 120,000 every single year. These are parents who are caring for children who have complex needs. They are exhausted and now they're expected to become full-time fundraisers. Asking parents to bail out a state that's awash with cash because it won't properly fund schools. It's welcome that there's going to apparently be engagement with Scull-McCua now, but Minister, Scull-McCua isn't the only special school in difficulty, and it shouldn't take a primetime programme for an engagement to begin with these schools. Many schools, many constituencies don't even have a special school, including my own constituency in Cork South West. The Special Schools Alliance will actually be giving a presentation in the Oireachtas later today outlining the major issues with access to therapists in special schools, and I hope that there'll be lots of government representatives there. Minister, we all know that this government is in its final days. In the election campaign, the coalition partners will have to defend their record on disability. And given the way in which disabled people of all ages have been systematically failed, I really don't know how you'll do that. According to the SRI, your budget will push more disabled people into poverty. Nearly 13,500 children are now waiting for appointments with Children's Disability Network teams, and personal transport grants that Fine Gael and Labour axed over a decade ago have still yet to be replaced. I could go on. Government have wasted opportunity after opportunity to improve the lives of disabled people. The litany of failure is shameful. Tomorrow, the Social Democrats will launch our disability policy. In it, we will make clear that we will not go into any future government unless there is a senior ministry for disability. We clearly need a full Minister for Disability so the interests of disabled people are actually represented at the Cabinet table, because they have been absent for far too long. This is a deal breaker for the Social Democrats. We'll also announce plans about how we'll resource services, address staffing shortages and provide oversight and accountability. Minister, do you agree with the SRI's analysis that your budget will push more disabled people into poverty? Can you tell us more about the engagement with Scull-McCua, and is there funding there? And do you agree that we need a Minister for Disability for it to finally get the political will behind it that it needs to address the many issues and shortcomings in our services?
Sure, please.
So, thank you, Deputy. You appear to be approaching this issue through the lens of claims that may or may not be made at election time. That is not the approach of this government. We have a minister, a senior minister with responsibility for disability. That minister is Minister Donnelly. The government made the decision to move disability services out of the Department of Health and move them into responsibility, for Minister Roderick O'Gorman, who focuses on that in addition to the responsibilities that he has. The issues that you are raising are ones the government take very seriously. Again, I go back to the point that I made there to Deputy MacDonald. Amid the different figures that we will trade, amidst the general political claims that will be made here, I'm keenly aware of that young girl, that young boy with a disability, with additional needs and the support they need early in life. And I'm keenly aware of the value of their teacher, their healthcare professional, the work a school does and the need to support them. But the point I would respectfully make to you, Deputy Kearns, is if you look at what we have as a government aimed to do in recent years, we believe and can demonstrate that the efforts have been providing additional supports. If you look at it from a special school point of view, the really important issue that you raised at the start of your question to me there. Since 2020, over 11 special schools have now been established, and we've had 1,300 new special classes being provided across our country. And for this school year alone, over 400 new special classes have been sanctioned, with classes now provided in every county and 4 new special schools due to open shortly. So they're not making reference to amounts of money, which I'll come on to in a moment. That's the tangible reality of spaces being made available in schools, new schools being opened, and new classes being opened in schools. Because I, like you, am so aware of the challenge that those young pupils with disabilities, with additional needs face within their lives, and the commitment that this government has, and I think we all have, to give them the support they need in life and the support they need at the start of their journey in life. You made the point then, and went on to make the point there in relation to disability services and the support that's made available there. Again, in no small part due to the leadership of Minister Roderick O'Gorman and the work that he has done, and I've seen him do this work over many years now. We now have seen in this government an increase of €1.2 billion being made available to disability services within Ireland, which is an increase of 58% over 5 years. And that increase is happening in recognition of the needs, of the issues that you and other deputies raise. And to bring that to life, to what that means to young lives and the support that they need, it's the reason now, for example, why we have 46,000 children within our country receiving additional support through the spending of the money that I've referred to. So I agree with you that we, of course, have to work harder to meet those needs, but I'd respectfully make the case here this morning of progress with regard to schools, special classrooms and the support of our disability services, while always acknowledging, Count Corda, the further work that we have to remain committed to do.
Thank you very much. Deputy Kearns.
So you say that you're keenly aware of that boy and that girl, and I have to say, when you look at the budget figures, it doesn't feel like it. And you don't have to take my word for it or my opinion for it. You know, the SRI have said that they think your budget will push more disabled people into poverty. So instead, the government decided to try and splash the cash around indiscriminately in a brazen attempt to try and buy votes rather than invest in these critical services like disability services. That was a political choice that was made. And on budget day, we saw what we've seen in every other budget from this government, which is we're told this huge big figure of what's been invested into disability services. This year, you said 336 million. But then, like every other year, we put in the questions to the department. You've conflated 2 different figures. So the existing level of service, I think we can all agree, not enough. Like I said, no motorised transport grants, how many children waiting for Children's Disability Network teams, not one fully staffed team, not enough. So the additional funding, it turns out, was 42 million. That is 22 million less than last year. Do you accept that that is a decrease on the additional funding from last year at a time when we know the existing level of service is threadbare?
So you referred to the government splashing the cash. I assume you're referring to the cost of living measures. So what cost of living measure are you against? Are you against the energy credit? Are you against the change in the domiciliary care allowance? Are you against the changes that we made to support those in receipt of the disability allowance, the invalidity pension, the blind pension? Are you against the payments for those who are in receipt of the fuel allowance or those who are in receipt of the living alone allowance? You made the claim about splashing the cash. I'm asking you to tell me what measure you're against. And during our exchange this morning, you might perhaps do that. In relation to the question that they've raised there, Deputy Kearns has raised, again, a really important issue regarding how we support our disability services. You made reference to the existing level of service, but of course the existing level of service, any change there can still lead to further spaces and further supports being made available to more people who need them. And in terms of the new measures that were brought forward, is the reason why Deputy Roderick O'Gorman and Minister Stephen Donnelly before him have led such an increase in the funding for disability services in recent years. And Count Corla, in conclusion, let me continue to acknowledge the need that we have to do more to support those with additional needs, with disabilities, and those who provide supports to them. But I'd make the case to the Dáil for the funding that is there and the difference that it genuinely does make.
Thank you very much.